Hey there, my name's Crew, and welcome to our YouTube channel today. While you're here, we hope this content does three things. Firstly, helps you discover God. Secondly, help you develop yourself. And thirdly, that'll deploy you into leadership with a biblical worldview. Before you go, make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe. Enjoy the rest of the content.
Thank you. Thank you. Please be seated. It truly is an honor to be in the pulpit today. It only took 25 years. I'm not sure what that says about me. No, it's actually kind of scary if you were wondering when you're following arguably the greatest preacher on the planet in the pulpit. It's a little scary. I want to just pass out a little bit of honor where it's due. Pastors Keith and Sheila for trusting me to be up here today. I can't even say properly what that means to me and how honored I feel to be here and to be in your life and how it's affected me. And I'm going to talk about that today, but it's a huge honor. Thank you. Honored to be ordained as a pastor. For those of you who were in that service and heard it, you heard it along with me for the very first time. And so we were excited and honored to be ordained as pastors. We have a heart for ministry and a heart for this place, and that's a huge honor for us. I'm honored to represent my family. My son Garrett's here. My son-in-law Josh is here. Brittany was here in the first service. I'm going to talk about her a little bit, but the fact that my children serve the Lord with us in this house is an immeasurable reward. And so I'm honored that. I'm honored that my wife, Darlene, who's been my greatest cheerleader, has been with me now we'll be married 40 years this year, been together 41 years. Whenever I'm down, she has the unbelievable ability to let me see myself through her filter, and it helps me greatly. I'm honored to lead with the men, the mighty men in the church, and I'm going to talk about that today, but it's become the most fruitful place in my life of seeing transformation take place. And it's a dream that pastors had literally for the 40 years that I've been with him. He's taken on the mantle to speak to men, and this church is a little bit different, but most churches are not that way. The men are just they show up on Sundays and they're peripheral, and it's very difficult. Men are knuckleheads by nature. Being one, I understand that. And the mantle that's been on him to raise up men, and now for about the last 5 years, what we've been seeing after 20 years of seeds being in the ground, really 40 plus years of you planting seeds, what's happening with the men in our church is a true revival and a true transformation, and I'm truly honored to be a part of that, and I'll talk about that a little bit today. Also, I see some friends that are here. The Bobays are here. Some other friends have texted me that they came to hear me speak today, which adds a lot more pressure. Thank you. And Sean told me he drove all night to be here. Thank you, Sean. No problem, no pressure. I'm going to talk today a little bit about my life and about the decisions that I've made. And Pastor's quoted many times, he says, success leaves clues. Now, I don't know if he was the originator of that, but the first person I ever heard it from was him. So hopefully today I can successfully impart a little bit of the success that I've had for the last 40 years. And it's a little bit odd to talk about your own success, but fruit is fruit. And I'm honored to be in the Crafts life. They've developed, I've been there the whole way. They just only been married for a little over a year when I met them. I watched them raise their children. I used that as my model. They established a followable parenting model. And they didn't have great parents. I didn't have great parents. And I honor them for doing that and building an amazing church on love-based leadership culture. And this place is amazing. People have said to me recently and said to Darlene and I that we're the richest people in the world. They want what we have. And that's very humbling. But I would tell you to have kids that follow the Lord with all their heart and lead on a high level is a priceless thing that I have in my life. And I am thankful for that. And I do agree with them. I think that Darlene and I are the richest people in the world. And so that being said, we're going to talk about that today. And hopefully we'll glean some things that you can start 2025 off with. It's always good to have some direction and have some steps to follow for the new year. And so I'm honored that I get to be the first one. I want to ask the mighty men that are here today. And as you notice, there's probably an unusual amount of guys with black shirts with a little red logo on it. What do you think I'm going to talk about today? Correct. What the word they said was decide. And I've had the privilege of speaking to the men over the last years, and I've been doing a series of messages on deciding. And I don't want this to be the one and only time I speak at the church, so I'm going to tone it down just a little bit from how I speak to the guys. Yeah, all the guys are coming up to me today. Bring it, do it, yeah. Pastor's saying to me, easy, easy. Yes, sir, I got it. I got the title for this message today, which is The Greatest Decisions of My Life. And I normally have an inkling of what the word of the year is. I'm very close to Pastor, as you guys know. And so I'm, just by osmosis, I usually find out what the word is before we get to the announcement of it. Man, it was top secret. Man, the staff they didn't leak anything. Nobody told me. I'm always listening. I wanted to get what the word was. Nothing. So on New Year's Eve, when he's going to announce the word, we were having a meeting beforehand, and he told us what the word was. And I said, well, Pastor, my message title is, the greatest decisions of my life. I'll be glad to change it if you want me to, when he told us the word was greater. And he said, no. He said, you preach it. So I get to speak first about the greater at the church. And so anyway, here we go. I made some decisions in my life, and like everyone, not all of those decisions were great. And at the age I am now, I'm able to look back at that with hindsight and clarity, and hopefully that forms what we're going to talk about today. The first great decision I made was I made a decision to follow. I could say a whole lot about that. We all usually let our egos get in the way as men, or issues of life get in the way, and we decide not to follow. We just kind of float through life and show up here and show up there and don't really get focused in on who we're going to follow. My following and my decision to follow Pastor Keith goes back over 40 years. He showed up at a church called Glad Tidings Church in Sherman, Texas, which at that time was the 11th largest Assembly of God church in the country. And I'd seen him about a year earlier at a youth ski retreat up in Colorado. And I have to candidly admit, I was not there to grow spiritually. I was there to ski and chase girls. That's the reason I went. And I was a successful guy in school. I was a good athlete. I was popular, voted the king of the prom and all those accolades that you hope you get in high school. So I was, cocky and obnoxious and confident. And I remember it. I can see it right now in my mind. I looked across the room, and this guy walks in. It was Pastor Keith. And he's a giant of a man to start with. So you can't miss him. He had this bright yellow Jesus is my strength shirt on with the shoulders cut out. The guns were showing. Hair about halfway down his back. Of course, great tan, beautiful man. I can say that. I'm confident. So at that moment, as a young man, you can look at that and go, oh, I don't have it going on. Because I had that thought running through my head. But then I had the thought, he's got it going And it was really the first time I saw a strong man of God. First time I can remember saying, I want to know who that guy is. Before I wasn't, Cody, I wasn't attracted to the pastor at our church. He was very weak. He was sickly. It was just a weird dynamic. The youth pastor was weird. And you know, as a 18 or 19-year-old kid, didn't you think you got it going on? You want to be around cool people. I mean, you just do. And have something to aspire to. And I was not in that environment at all. And in walked Pastor Keith. So that was a deciding moment in my life. And then what happened was about a year later, I was going to church about, like most people, about every third Sunday. I was successful already at a young age, had my own business. And I walked in one Sunday and he was sitting on the stage. I went, wonder why he's here. Because I recognized it instantly. And they announced him as a youth pastor. And that Sunday I went down and rededicated my life to the Lord. And I said, I'm gonna find out what this guy's all about. And we started our journey together. And to say that it shaped me is not even an appropriate description. What I did though, I wouldn't have continued to follow him in any situation if he hadn't been following hard after the Lord. That's what I was attracted to. And he was the most principled guy I'd ever met, the most core values-based guy. We didn't know it was core values at that time, but he had values, and that's what I wanted. And so I decided to follow after him as he was following after the Lord. So one of the first interesting life proverbs that I discovered in my life, and we all deal with this, and it was a decision I made early on. When you encounter greatness, so you can make a decision about that. You can either think, oh man, that dude's got it going on. I want to be like that guy. I want to be around that guy. Or you can just discount it. Yeah, he's one of those special people. Or what a lot of people do is they get negative about it and they try to figure out how they can attack it or tear it down and not benefit from it. It's a valuable lesson that we learn in life to respect the gift and desire to be with the gift. What I got to know about Pastor Keith, and you guys all know this, and if you're a guest here, by the way, please come back and hear the pastor. I'm not the pastor. Somebody came up to me a couple weeks ago and said, are you Keith Kraft? And I went, well, thank you. No, I'm not. He's a foot taller than me. Anyway, but as I got around him and I found out that he could sing, had an amazing voice, and that he could preach. You make decisions in life. Hey, am I going to get around greatness? Am I going to find somebody that I can follow? Or am I going to keep doing my own thing? And in this particular case, I chose to follow, and it was a great decision for my life. 1 Corinthians 11:1 says this. Paul was saying this, follow my example as I follow the example of Christ. All I can tell you is people's fruit are their fruit. There's enough fruit in this place, there's enough fruit in Pastor's life that you can find somebody in this church to follow that's following hard after Christ. It'll be one of the important decisions that you make. Joshua 24:15 says this, choose this day whom you will serve, whether the gods of your ancestors served in the region beyond the river or the gods of the Amorite in whose land you are living. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Deuteronomy 13:4 says, it is the Lord your God you must follow. In him you must revere. Keep his commandments, obey him, serve him, and hold fast to him. I love that scripture. My son, Garrett, gave a wonderful description. He's a former Navy SEAL, as most of you guys know. And he talks about the image of the ship in the ocean, and the term hold fast came from holding on to the ropes or the railings so you didn't fall in the water. You had to hold fast, tightly holding on. That scripture always makes me think about that. It makes like hold fast to God. Matthew 10:38 says, whatever does not take up the cross and follow me is not worthy to follow me. It's pretty strong language. Mark said it this way, then he called the crowd to him along with the disciples and said, because it's Jesus speaking, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow me. pastor I love, I adopted for my message today, one of the things he does, he always has a big question. What's the big question? Well, the big question about deciding to follow is, who are you following? You can think about that for a second. Are you following money? A lot of us, we get stuck in the social media hole. And what I mean by that is we find somebody on there that we think is somebody that they're really not. Because they look really good on social media. I need somebody to help me look really good on social media. Make me thinner and taller and, all that stuff. But equally as important is, where are you going? So who are you following? Where are you going? Something to think about as we start off this year. It'll be a great decision to decide who you're going to follow. The second decision I made in life was to make God first family decisions. After 60 years my perspective has changed on that. I view my life through the lens of legacy now. Everything I do, every decision I make, I've got that loop, Pastor, running in my head. How is this going to affect my children? How is this going to affect my grandchildren? How is this going to affect the men I'm leading? I'm thinking about it all the time. I'm keenly aware of those actions. I'm keenly aware of how it affects people when I make poor decisions. I know how it's going to affect the next generation. My son uses this. He speaks about this. He says perspective is your superpower. And now that I've heard it in those terms, I really do believe that, how we perceive things. We've all made a lot of decisions in our life. I've made good decisions. I've made bad decisions. The filter we use to make those decisions generally has great impact on the outcome. Charles Spurgeon said this: a father's holy life is a rich legacy for his sons. Of course, sons are daughters. I'll read that to you again. A father's holy life is a rich legacy for his sons and daughters. Deuteronomy 6:5-7 says this: you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by your way, when you lie down, and when you rise. I love that scripture. What decisions are we making for our family? How are we teaching the next generation? Pastor Keith says it like this: the reason a strong family culture by design is important is because it teaches your children to be proactive in a reactive world. Man, that has never been more appropriate than the world we live in right now. Stephen Covey said this: being proactive is more than taking initiative. It's accepting responsibility for our own behavior, past, present, and future, making choices based upon principles and values rather than reacting to the circumstances of our environmental conditions. So good. So, a lot of you know me, and you've known me through this environment. So all you see is the Scott that's recognized in the church, the Scott that maybe you've done some business with me and you've seen me on that deal, but unless you know me really closely, you don't really know all the struggles. The Crafts know all the struggles. And one of those for our family, and I talked about this in the first service. Thank you for letting me back for the second service, Pastor. And she came up and talked to me about her daughter, but I talked about my daughter, Brittany. And Josh is here, who's married to my daughter. She's not here this service, but Brittany was a difficult child. How many of you have teenage daughters in your house? God love you. Bless you. Brittany exited our house as an alien for a couple years. Was opposite of anything that we wanted for her life or what God wanted for her life. Darlene and I were in a battle for her life. It got really tough. She was, I know you're going to be shocked when I say this. She thought she had fallen in love with a young man who was, in my opinion, a predator. And I told him so. And I told his dad so. And because as the father, I'm going to be responsible for my family. Well, it didn't get better. So what teenagers do in school's environment, she sneak around. all these things. He actually snuck in our house. It's like he's not dead. Seriously. And so we had to make some tough decisions. And we were in the middle of the church. We were in mobile church at that time. We were driving down here to serve. And we had our house on the market. It was during one of those horrible times where, real estate was going the wrong direction. And we were several years in and couldn't sell it. And we just made a decision. You know what? We're going to Frisco. And in 2004, we shipped Brittany off to the Crafts house. They got to go to the craft boot camp, she did. And Pastor Sheila loved on her, and Pastor Keith directed her. And it was for a couple months until we could get moved down. You have to know that was a shock to her and to our family to have to do that. But we make God first family decisions. I would tell you it saved her life. If you ever talk to her, she'll tell you it saved her life. The fact that we were willing to sacrifice the way we sacrificed on her behalf changed the course, the very direction. And now you guys know her as Dr. Brittany. You guys know her, Pastor, and her and Josh lead on a high level with Pastors Buddy and Vicky in the marriage area, and they help with that, and they have a passion for it. And it's amazing to see what's possible. If we hadn't made God first family decisions, I can't tell you my family would be sitting here. I don't know where Brittany would have been and what she would have been doing and what would have happened with this young man. I could have been in prison for killing him. That's the way dads think, right? We just take them out. Here's what, thank you. Some father going through exactly what I went through. It's a horrible season. As we share with other families in the church, you will get on the other side of it. You will win. God will help you get through, and you will win. I didn't say it'd be easy. Billy Graham said this: the greatest legacy one can pass on to one's children and grandchildren is not money or material things accumulated in life, but rather a legacy of character and faith. Such a powerful quote. Take that quote, put it on your mirror, think about it. How are you going to make your decisions? Legacy of character and faith. Pastor Keith said this: your legacy is not about you. Your legacy is what happens because of you. So good, so good. The big question for point 2 is, what's your legacy? Now, I have to say that I think about it often now. When I was in my 30s and 40s and I was driving to build a business and we had little babies and all those things, I can't tell you that I was cognizant of that. But you're in a place now and have people around you and an amazing leader that thinks about legacy, and you can benefit from that, be way farther down the road than I was at that time. So I would encourage that. Make God first family decisions. Point 3, I decided to make kingdom decisions. Now, we just talked about family, so let's talk about business. Let's talk about relationships, maybe hobbies. What are you doing? Your story is the greatest legacy that you will leave to your friends. It's the longest lasting legacy you will leave to your heirs. That's a quote by Steve Saint. Your story is your greatest legacy. Psalm 78:4 says this: we will not hide them from their children, but tell to the coming generations the glorious deeds of the Lord and his might and the wonders that he has done. Kingdom decisions. One of the greatest kingdom decisions you can make. I see people come in and out of here. I've been here since the beginning. I've been in church for over 40 years faithfully. I've watched people show up and leave and show up and leave. One of the greatest decisions you can make is to decide on your church. If this isn't it, if this isn't your tribe, go find a tribe that you can plug into and serve and be functioning and advance the kingdom of God. But for your family, one of the greatest kingdom decisions you're going to make is deciding on where's my home church, and making it absolute that you're going to be there and you're going to be plugged in. Faux strong. Kingdom decision is to be healthy. You know, it's like the elephant in the room, no pun intended. We all want to be healthy, but if someone's not healthy, we don't want to talk about being unhealthy. Well, I've got pictures to prove it. I was about 300 pounds, very unhealthy. And as I was coming on 50, I got a diagnosis that I had signs of early Alzheimer's. And I'm not sure who wants to hear that, but all I heard was, you're a stupid idiot, you can fix that. That's what I heard internally. I live with a health coach, and my best friend has worked out every year, every week, over the entire year of his life. I've known it, I've been there, I've seen it, and here I am, out of shape and in bad health. So I didn't have any excuse, right? Well, thank the Lord, I've done better, sir. Sensei. And I live a healthy life now, and I don't have any of those signs anymore. But it's a kingdom decision. So we talk about it here, and I love that. Your decisions about your job and your alignments, make them based upon kingdom. Don't make them based upon if you're making $10 more. I've seen so many people leave here, and I watch them on Facebook, and they just disappear. And make decisions based upon how it's going to affect the kingdom of God in your family. I'm not telling you should never take a job and go off somewhere, because God may be calling you there and you're supposed to be planted in a great church there. I'm not ruling that out. But Dallas is a pretty good place to work. It's probably in the top 5 in the world. I mean, probably can find a good job here. But Elevate Life Church is right here, Frisco, Texas. I didn't tell this in the first service, but some of the decisions I made when we started the church, I had no idea what we were signing up for when we started the church. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But when we made the decision in October of 1999 that we were going to start the church, at that time, I had season tickets on the 50-yard line for the Cowboys, row 12, seats 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yes, I remember them. Right behind the home team. When they built the new stadium, they wanted $175,000 for the right for those seats. That wasn't going to happen. I don't like football that much. I gave up those seats. Don't even think about the Cowboys at this point. Not because they're bad. If they're not a priority to me. I also had Rangers tickets. I had 6 seats right behind home plate, row 22, right on the aisle. What was important to me at that time? Pretty easy to see, wasn't it? I was just doing life, doing my thing, going to the Cowboys game. If you have Cowboys tickets, you're going to miss church. I want to make sure we're putting that correlation together, right? So that wasn't my priority. Make kingdom decisions. The big question for making kingdom decisions is, what do you want? What do you want? You want a great family? You want great friends? You want your family to serve the Lord? Not going to happen. I'm just telling you, it's not going to happen without great decisions. It's difficult even when you make good decisions sometimes, because your kids are your kids. Second part of that is, what's your story? What's the story you want? As you come into 2025, decide what your story is going to be. What do you want? I want to take just a second, and I previously mentioned the mighty man earlier. You notice there's an unusual amount of black shirts sitting around you, if you were aware at all this morning about that. And there's a lot of misnomers with men. This last Saturday, we had almost 400 guys, 370-something guys show up at 7 o'clock on Saturday morning. Yeah, you can get excited about that. A great decision you can make as a man in this church is to show up on Saturday morning. Now, I'm not going to beat you up about that. Garrett came up to me this morning and said, "Let him have it, Dad." Pastor said, "Don't beat him up over it." So I'm going to do what Pastor said. I'm not going to beat you up over it. There's so much misinformation with men. Men are so insecure. And it's okay. I've been there, done that. And you don't get in the room because you're afraid to get in the room. It's not about sleeping in or not sleeping in. You just decide, I'm going to get up. Guys do whatever they decide to do. If you decide to get up, you decide to go to the football game, you go to the football game. If you decide to go to the bar, you go to the bar. If you decide to hang out with your friends, that's what you do. Somehow or another, you figure it out. So just decide to get up in the morning. It's a little bit of self-discipline. Funny story, I ran into, just so you know, and I'm standing here just before you and God, I was that same guy that said, I'm not a morning person. I hated getting up in the morning. We used to have to get up and pray at 6 o'clock. It was required by him, and because I was associated with him, it was required for me. Does that make sense? I didn't want to get up at 6 o'clock, but we did it. I hated it every day we did it. So anyway, I decided to start coming to Mighty Men. All of a sudden, lo and behold, I become a morning person, Pastor Buddy. All of a sudden, I get up in the morning. I wake up at 5 o'clock. I read my Bible. I pray. I do my thing. It's amazing how that worked, right? So this guy, bless his heart, Mike, if you're in here, I'm not going to call your last name out and embarrass you, but you know I'm talking about you. He's very plugged in and serves now. So we're walking out after Mighty Men, and I asked him, you were new, what do you think? He goes, yeah, I'm really not a morning guy. I go, really? I said, who told you that? He's like looking at me like, I confronted him, but it was very friendly, right? Cody, I didn't have him in a headlock. Who told you that? He goes, I don't know who told me that. I said, well, just decide not to be a morning person. He goes, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. He's not missed since then. He's decided to come. Mighty Men is where you're going to make great alignments. You're going to have people going to walk through life for you. You're going to elevate your thinking. You can't help it. We are teaching the principles that are raised up in this place. You're going to elevate your thinking. You're going to be able to grow. And if you want to be around men that will push you, then there's guys that will do that. But you don't have to dive in that deep if you don't want to. Here's what it's not. Here's the deal. I had a guy text me after first service. He said, I don't know about those push-ups. I don't even know what to say about that. Guys, we had 2 guys in their 70s last year that graduated from the path in their 70s, and we had one 12-year-old. Tension level down. Tension level down. Listen, if you can't do a push-up, great. You will in time if you come. Bobby, how old are you? Stand up for 1 second. This is Bobby's service. Okay, I've embarrassed you enough. Sit down. He's lost close to 100 pounds in the last 3 or 4 years, how long it's been. He couldn't do one push-up, not one, when he first came. He can now. You can see he looks different. And it's not about that. It's not about physical. It's just what's possible. He decided he wanted to change and grow. And that's all we're doing, guys, is giving you a chance to just get in the groove with some other guys and get to where you want to be. It's not about being a rah-rah person. I've heard guys go, man, I don't want to be by that rah-rah, rock kazak. The guy that leads our Mighty Men, the former Navy SEAL, is the least rock kazak person in this room, I can guarantee you. When it comes to standing up and yelling and jumping, you're just not going to see. Navy SEALs are trained to be cool and calm. They're like the Spartans. They don't got to yell. Man, he has got a set of lungs on him, though. Garrett leads rock kazak, and it's about being strong and courageous. It's not about rah-rah. Who cares about rah-rah? I want to be strong. I want to be courageous. Powerful. So anyway, I hope, guys, that makes you feel better. Here's what I want to encourage you to do, and you'll have a chance at the end of the service to see the QR code on that. Just come. Just come be a part of what we're doing on Saturdays. I promise you it'll change your life. It'll be one of the best decisions you make. Whatever somebody's told you, whatever lie they were told, it's just not true. Just come and do. Now, what I want the guys to do that have black shirts on, the Mighty Men, to stand up. The reason I want them to stand up, Tim, stand up. There's all you guys that say, okay, I'm going to come next Saturday. Find one of these guys in a black shirt, introduce yourself to them. They'll be out in the lobby, and they will be waiting for you next Saturday morning at the door. They'll walk you in, make you get you get you settled in and comfortable, take you to their group with them. It'd be the easiest thing you've ever done, no pressure. So, mighty men, thank you for being here today with your shirts on. The fourth decision I made goes right along with this. It's a decision to serve. I thought I was a good Christian guy. I had my family in church. I tithed. I did all the right things, checked all the boxes. And pastor said, we're going to start a church. Now, as his friend, I was thinking, one, he was never going to be a pastor because he was an evangelist. And I traveled with pastor, and I knew what he said in those churches. And I'm thinking, that's probably not going to work to build a church. He would say, what you always said, I didn't know if I was the shoe that would fit in a pastor's foot, a foot that would fit in the shoe. So anyway, he called me and he said, we're going to start a church. And I said, I'm in, thinking maybe Florida, because we love going to the Gulf. Maybe the mountains, beautiful. We like to go snow skiing. Frisco, Texas. 22,000 people, nothing but a bunch of fields. There was La Hacienda Ranch and a Ford dealership and the water towers that said Coons on it. That was pretty much it. Frisco, okay, great, I'm in. Had no idea what we were in for. I believe serving is the absolute anchor point to become part of the tapestry of the kingdom of God. It changed my life. When you find out it's not all about you, when you make that decision to serve, those of you, because a lot of you do serve, you know what I'm talking about. It's hard to even describe, but it just changes you. Things are different. The famous words of Bob Dylan. Well, it may be the devil, or it may be the Lord, but you're going to serve somebody. And it's true. It's the single greatest decision I made in my life. I'm 100% sure of that. Besides choosing the Lord, choice of Darlene, my life, I had some great decisions, but as far as how it impacted me and my family, the single greatest decision. When we started the church, we committed to serve. I didn't know what that meant. Decision literally changed the fabric of my family. Now, I'm going to forewarn you. I've told this to a few people, but if you come up to me like at Mighty Men and we're greeting you or meeting you and you told me you had to drive a long way and you're looking for me to be sympathetic, I'm not the right guy. So we drove 45 minutes. There's a beautiful road you can drive on now. Preston's a great road. Highway 75 is wonderful. It was a 2-lane road with no shoulder back in the day with a lot of stop signs. And it took us 45 to 50 minutes to get from Sherman, Texas to Frisco. Well, we started at night, which was bizarre to start a church at night, but there was no schools. So I would leave the house at 3 o'clock. We'd come down, set up the church, have church service, tear it down, go eat, fellowship, get home about 11, 12 o'clock at night. Doesn't that sound like fun? Well, we finally got a church right down the street. Morning service, Joe, thinking, okay, it's going to be great. So instead of staying up late, I had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, get Garrett out of bed, put him in the truck, drive to church at 4 o'clock to do setup. And in the beginning, we didn't have all the teams and great. We built some teams, brother, in a hurry. Get some help. And it was the most amazing time of my life. Darlene and Brittany would leave about 30 or 45 minutes later. By the time we got the trucks unpacked and got the stuff out for the nursery in the kids area, they would follow behind along with a bunch of other families and set up the kids area in the nursery. Darlene served in the nursery for the first year. Then I think the next 2 or 3 years was the kids ministry. My family served all of them. All I can say to you is, did it work? I mean, I'm just saying, it is what it is, right? My kids are serving the Lord on a very high level. So what seemed like bad was actually wonderful for our family. It's a great decision for you. Here's what Martin Luther said. It's one of the greatest quotes. You guys have all heard it before. Everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree, which I don't. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve, which I sometimes don't do. You only need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. That's all you need. It's very powerful. I see a lot of people come and go here, and I'm not saying it's absolute, but it's just life, and none of those people ever get plugged in and serve. They just come, and honestly, I've heard it a few times, pastor's just not doing this. Pastor's just not doing that. When you begin to serve, you no longer have the idea of what am I getting? It's what am I bringing? It's just so powerful. John 12:26 says this. Jesus didn't cut much slack on serving. Whoever serves me must follow me, and where I am, my servant also will be. My Father will honor the one who serves me. Matthew 20:26-28 says this. Though among you it will be different. Whoever wants to be a leader among you, you must be your servant. Ooh, that sounds great. And whoever wants to be the first among you must become your slave. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others and to give his life as a ransom for many. Really, that's like the absolute word, right? Let's just do that. If we did that, we're all going to serve. Pastor Josh has a great message on becoming a slave. Nobody liked that message, so you know. Peter 4:10-11 says this. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others. You guys all got talents that I don't have. Y'all have talents that Pastor doesn't have. Use those talents to serve others. As faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms, do not be slothful in zeal, be fervent in spirit, and serve the Lord. It's powerful. Pastor Keith says this. He makes an amazing statement here. God's servants are not people who just believe in him or people who simply strive to live with a biblical worldview and seek to do the right thing. God's servants are people who live with a transcendent cause, a cause beyond themselves, who give their time, their talent, and their treasure to God, who live not to make their own dreams come true, but to make God's dreams come true through how they live. Whew. Drop the mic. He also said servant leadership is your gateway to greatness. I've had that circled in my book for a long time. The big question is for 2025 is who will you serve? I hope all of you decide today that we're going to start serving. Last service we had the Attorney General, Ken Paxton, had visited us again. Now I think he's adopted this place as his church. I apologize to him that I was speaking and not Pastor Keith. It's a major effort for him to move around and be protected and all that. And I said, what I said to the first service was, he didn't take on the position of Attorney General to get wealthy. They don't pay that much. When you're a conservative Christian and you're in politics, everybody hates you, pretty much. I'm sure it's the way it feels to him. So we honored him in the first service for being here and being willing to serve on the level he does. He defends the whole country. It's amazing what he does. Yeah. If I've done anything well in my life, I've not been a quitter. I've been consistent. I decided I was going to show up, decided I was going to serve, decided I wasn't going to be offended, all the normal things. And I decided to do it right here at Elevate Life with my favorite pastor, Pastor Keith. Let me wrap it up by saying this. I want to just recap for you guys. I made the decision to follow. Decide who you're going to follow. Decide where you're going to go. It's a great time of the year to make that decision and to decide that you're going to follow the Lord. Second thing, decide to make God first family decisions. What's your legacy? What's your legacy? I have, because I get to deal with men a lot, I have intimate conversations with them, and I have guys tell me, he said, well, look, I'm estranged from my wife, and my kids don't talk to me, and, it's bad. And I said, look, Just start today. Just start today. If you're in that situation and you're not in a place where you've been able to make God first family decisions and you haven't been able to make good kingdom decisions, just start today. It's amazing what God can do. God can restore your marriage. God can restore your family. God can restore your relationship with your kids. I could give you dozens and dozens of instances where it's happened throughout the years. So just start today on that decision-making process. And then the last thing was, or the third thing was, decided to make kingdom decisions. What do you want and what's your story going to be? And then decide to serve. So as we wrap up today, there's going to be 2 QR codes up, and Pastor Keith's going to come up and close the service. And all I can say is, just come and see. If you're a man, just come and see. They have an amazing sheep path too. I'm not a female, I'm not going to talk about it, but they have a great sheep path too. You can find out about that in the back. Just come and see. Don't have any preconceived thoughts about it. Just come be a part. If you're a psycho, I said this in the first service, and it's so true. Josh 2 is sitting in front of me. If you don't know Josh 2, he's an amazing man of God and a king in the house, but he is a psycho in the most positive sense. And if he's in, he's in. I mean, like all in. So if you're one of those guys and you're thinking to myself, yeah, that's me, this QR code takes you to the Mighty Man path. We've had over 300 people already sign up this year. And there's just nothing better you can do as a guy. That's all I can tell you. I would jump up and down and scream and holler and be a rah-rah guy. Just come join us. Be all in. But if you're really up for the challenge, jump on the path with us. The other QR code's about serving. There's so many opportunities in here, from kids to youth, to usher and greeter, to the nursery, to e-alert, to parking lot. I mean, listen, that's just like I'm just getting the tip of the iceberg. Come serve. See what happens. See if what I said today wasn't true, that it absolutely changes your life. So hopefully if my 40 years and whatever success I've had today speaks to you, and hopefully it challenges you just a little bit, not on the good side, to come join us at Elevate Life. Let 2025 be the start of you serving in the house and joining us with the men and the girls too. Thank you.
Give my friend Scott a big hand.
Thank you so much for joining us on our YouTube channel today. If that message, if that content helped you elevate your life in any way, make sure you share it with someone today. Before you go, make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next time on our YouTube channel.